Hello, everybody. Welcome to Snap Take. I'm Glazer of the Snap Judgments podcast, and we dropped a new episode yesterday. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you do, either on this YouTube or your favorite podcatcher. Today, well, we got a patch. Everyone on Earth has analyzed the patch. We're not going to do it like everybody else. We don't do that here. Instead of analyzing the patch just like everyone else, we're going to show you a deck that you can play with absolutely everything that was touched and analyze how and why it was touched. If you want to understand the game, where it's going, how things are happening, this is the place, this is the video for you. Hopefully, you're ready because we're about to not yet begin. First, I want to explain to you why you should subscribe. First of all, we are the home of the largest season pass giveaway in Marvel Snap. Starting probably early next week, we're going to have our next giveaway. Make sure you're subbed so that you can be entered to win a season pass. We give away 5 season passes along with a grand prize that includes every token Tuesday for the month of June. It's a great deal for subbing. In addition to that, we find the decks before the big channels. We go deck hunting constantly. We constantly check all the stats in order to bring you the best deck so you can stay ahead of the curve. Cam Best promotes a deck, you know you're going to see it on ladder all day, every day, right? I promote a deck, you get to ride it to infinite while no one else is ready. You also get to support a small business. Gotta love it. All right, let's get to the first deck and change we're going to talk about. The meta remains this deck. The deck that we're talking about here is our standard, completely, we're used to it at this point, um, stats.com deck, as our friend Cam Best would call it. This deck is the easiest way to get to infinite if you have all the cards. We all expected, as per the pattern, Darkhawk and Null, who we'll talk about later, to be downgraded to Series 3. So people were saving so they could grab it with their free Series 3 card, right? Oops. That's actually not how they decided to do it. Instead of that, what we actually have is Darkhawk and Null staying and a bunch of extra cards that are probably not as good being downgraded to Series 3. Why does that matter? Well, these meta cards are being kept away from players or forcing players to spend tokens to get them for longer or open more caches to get them for longer. If you're early pull 3, this is obviously a problem. However, if you're early pull 3, it's actually in some ways easier to find a Series 4 card than a Series 3 card. You only get one free Series 3 card a month, whereas you'll have the tokens for free just by playing, doing your daily missions, for two Series 4 cards a month to be bought. It's a pretty solid deal, right? Um, that's not free, right? But it's at least comparable. And you're still opening a million Series 3 cards by being part of Series 3. However, if you have a lot left to go, that's the biggest pool. There's obviously not a guarantee of you getting to that card. Now, what makes this deck so good? We all know what makes this deck so good. It pokes rocks in your deck. It plays a bunch of things that are just weak enough to avoid Shang-Chi. It runs counters. It's super strong. My version runs Ghost in the place of Nebula. Ghost is now Series 3. We're going to talk about Ghost decks later. This is a wonderful thing to do. Further, this deck has a crazy cube rate, and they just changed how to get to infinite. Instead of needing 10 cubes to go up a rank, you now need 7. But you no longer get 50 free cubes when you hit a round number. Now you only get 30 free cubes. So instead of from 80 to 85, you'll go 80 to 83. But you only need 7. I don't know how this feels. I'm already infinite. I don't have a strong preference, but I spoke to a few pre-infinite players, a few pool 3 players, and they say it feels better, and honestly, their experience in this matters much more than mine. Also, it took me 3.5 days. It took me 4 days, but like I didn't play patch night because I was busy recording the podcast, right? So it took me 3 days of actually playing to hit infinite this season. I work full time. I'm a dad. I should probably not be hitting infinite that fast. I'm pretty good at the game, right? Like I'm not amazing, but I'm pretty good. I should not be hitting infinite that fast. Even if I'm playing a deck as overpowered as this, it should take me some more time. Hopefully, this slows me down while making it feel better for new players, and everyone's happy. So this is probably the best deck in the game, right? And if it's not that, then it is this deck. This is a very similar deck, but it runs the brand new card Iron Lad. Um, Basically, it replaces Shang-Chi with Iron Lad, and it replaces Miles Morales with Doom. Doom saying, I can go wide. Iron Lad saying, I can steal a powerful effect or potentially Doom in order to win the game. Obviously, both of these are extremely powerful. This version is better in the mirror. I think it is often worse in other matchups because the tech card of Shang-Chi is so extremely powerful in the deck, but you're not going wrong with either version of the deck. So, this being the most powerful leaves you with the obvious question, should I buy Darkhawk? I expect Darkhawk to go down next month, but probably. If you have all the other cards that are necessary for either of these decks, I think Darkhawk is probably worth it. He's one of the best cards in the game. And you get the hidden power. I don't know why no one's really talking about this. But the hidden power of Darkhawk decks is that you draw more cards than opponents because your opponent's almost always going to draw at least one rock. If you're drawing more cards and your cards are so powerful, you often win the game. Enjoy your wins. Have a great time. Cool. Next question. Should you buy Iron Lad to get to this version of the... Oh, sorry. I guess it's important. Should you buy Stature? Yeah, probably. Look, at this point, Stature is just a really strong card. She goes in a lot of different decks. If assuming you have Black Bolt, and if you have and if you like things like well, actually, let's talk about that deck later. We're going to look at a different deck that's running Stature and Black Bolt later, and running some other cards to help enable that combo. But for now, if you like it, yeah, I think like the thing I would buy most if I'm like relatively new, being done with Series 3, and I've got these tokens burning a hole, is not a Series 5 card, even if it's High Evolutionary, even if it's Iron Lad. What I'd probably go buy is Darkhawk and Stature. I think what keeping them Darkhawk Series 4 means is that they're signaling that they're not nerfing it right now. Even though it's strong, they don't have any balance changes planned for it. They're leaving it where it is because it's strong and it's effective. Cool. Should you buy Iron Lad? Maybe. Here's the logic. Are you far enough in the game that you have enough tokens? I think Iron Lad is a better card in general in High Evolutionary, who was just nerfed to a 4-4 before release from a 4-7. That's probably much more balanced. Iron Lad is probably a better card than High Evolutionary, but High Evolutionary fundamentally comes with like 7 or 8 different new cards because he unlocks all these other cards. Is Iron Lad better than all of those cards? Absolutely not. So High Evolutionary is probably a better buy. However, we know relatively soon, we're assuming it next month's patch, but given that Second Dinner is being weird about communicating right now, we don't actually know exactly when. They'll have weekend missions. What those are is you can earn credits every weekend by completing these missions. You complete them literally just by winning games. Winning any games over the weekend will get you credits. Great, your weekly is done, so you get credits for playing some more. Sounds good. You always want more credits. You can get gold for playing with the season pass card. At this point, Nebula. Next month, who will that be? Whatever. It'll come back to me later. Next month, whichever Spider character. Oh, Spider Gwen. So you'll have that option. This seems really, really effective as a way to get extra gold just by playing a card that you just bought that's new for you. Sometimes that card's not going to be great. This is going to be a little frustrating. The card's not that great, and you're trying to reach infinite, right? You're going to have to play a suboptimal thing if you want that extra gold. But what this is, because gold is their premium currency, is a way to sort of give you some money back. You also, for any new cards you buy, playing it that weekend will rebate you tokens. You will get tokens. We don't know how many, but they're saying there's going to be lots of ways to get tokens coming into the game to try and increase the amount of cards people can get. And this being one is a really, really great and effective way of saying, hey, buy the card. If you win, I don't know, 30 games this weekend, you could get 500 to 1,000 tokens back. That helps put you on your way. It gives you a nice rebate for buying these cards early. If you plan to do that, if you have enough tokens for High Evolutionary, if you're sitting pretty, then I urge you to get Iron Lad. The last reason to get Iron Lad is we know for a fact already there are 3 cards, not season pass cards, releasing in June. Spider-Man 2099, Spider-Ham, and the one who moves every time you play it card there. Cool. Those 3 cards. As those 3 cards come out, 2 of them are being released for the first time ever straight into Series 4, so they're going to be that discounted 3,000 token rate. So tokens should be relatively easier to come by. Think about how much you want the cards coming, and if you and like whether you're planning on getting them and how that rebate affects your token amounts as you're going forward. And if you're in a good spot, I think Iron Lad's a stellar card. I fully expect Spider-Man 2099 of 4 or 5 that kills something the first time it moves to a location, kills an opponent card the first time it moves to a location, to be like must buy and be the 6,000 token card. Spider-Ham is going to be great too. So there's going to be good cards. Don't fret. But I think Iron Lad is absolutely stellar. It's a really powerful and great card. The most popular deck, not the best deck, is going to be Galactus. This is the version of Galactus that I suggest playing. I replaced Death with America based on the Death nerf, which we're going to talk about much, much later. I think this is the version I would play. I could easily see including Crystal in this deck. Um, well, Galactus is the most popular deck in the meta right now. It wasn't nerfed because its win rate wasn't high enough. But it's getting so popular that they might need to nerf it anyway. They're just not yet sure how, according to excuse me, woo, going old school, second dinner employee Glenn. He says, basically, we might have to nerf it. Everyone wants to play this deck. Deck is completely crazy. Now, Wave was nerfed. Wave is still extremely powerful in this deck. She is now a 4 across the board, no matter what when she's played. You can't double spell. There's no discounts that matter. She says you cost 4 next turn, period. Stupidly strong as a control piece. Very effective deck. It's also going to be in this version of Galactus. I'm very worried that people are going to start playing this version of Galactus. I think it's actually better than the previous version. This is a straight turn 6 Galactus, but in this, I might honestly also, the more I think about Wave, just add her, not even necessarily as a ramp piece, as a way to stop my opponent from messing me up on the last turn of the game, assuming I want to just play like, I don't know, assuming I want to get a Nimrod out earlier or like whatever. Just, make their cost curve a little more awkward. This run runs Howard as a way to check what's coming with your Nimrod to make sure that you don't accidentally ruin your life with a Galactus you don't have a way around. But this deck should be extremely powerful. My working theory for Galactus is people like the ramp non-turn 6 Galactus more because it's so linear. I don't think people play Galactus for counterplay, really. They play it because they like to watch things go boom. And this requires a lot of play and counterplay and considering when you want a Galactus, when you want to play certain cards, how, while the rest of the Galactus decks are linear, and that's not really what people play Galactus for. So luckily, I don't think this deck will be as popular, but it is, to me at least, significantly harder to beat very, very often. Now, Wave will be great. Wave fits in this deck, Wave fits in that last deck, and Wave also fits here. This is the deck I am probably most worried about right now, or versions of this deck, although hopefully Patriot will just reemerge and knock it back down. This deck basically says, I will ramp into Sandman on, and if I don't ramp into Sandman, I can go Wave on 4 into Odin, and I fundamentally Sandman with a ton of power. It's really, really strong that way. Excuse me, gonna be talking for a while. In addition, it's got the arrow. You can only play one card after Sandman, so arrow's always going to go off. It's got the Doom to spread power across lanes. It's got the claw to put 6, which is more than Doom's 5, which messes up basically all opponent Professor X ones. Professor X is everywhere. Claw is absolutely stellar in the meta. He's a cube stealer. One more thought now that it occurs to me about that change to the amount of cubes. 7 is less than 8, which is the max you can get in one game. What that means is their second dinner is encouraging you to gamble the tokens, encouraging players to snap wildly to try and get that one game for one rank, which is not something that could happen before. That's a dangerous thing, but Claw is a great way to steal those extra tokens if that's how this meta ends up shaking out. There's one change I would make to this list, even though I just made it today. It didn't occur to me just how strong Leader was at this list right now, but Leader should be in Magneto's spot. There's no way around the Sandman. There's no way around the Wave, right? And you're basically always going to see one of the two with this version of the deck. And so Magneto, despite his power, and his power is extremely pronounced, especially against the meta deck because Darkhawk, Korg, etc. are all 4-cost cards. I think Leader is just enough better that you should be playing Leader right now. But that said, this deck should be extremely strong again. I'm not happy to see it. I was really happy when it left the meta. I think it is the fun police. Kitty is back. The other reason Sandman's going to be back is Kitty is everywhere. This is JHut 99's build. Yesterday's video, which is going to be linked in the description below, will have my version of this. I actually have two versions of this. Our boy Safety Blade has a bunch of versions. I'll throw you those two in the description. But JHut99 is another small creator who I like a lot, who makes a really, really phenomenal decks. I played this one for a bit just to get a feel for Kitty, because I didn't have Kitty before, and the deck is crazy strong. Kitty ended up 9 and 10 power, basically fairly regularly. Opponents were really struggling to draw cards and drawing rocks, while I was able to make both Kitty and Bishop absolutely humongous. I'll tell you what, though, I'm straight up unsure this deck even cares about Darkhawk. There's enough power between Kitty, Hitmonkey, and Bishop that Darkhawk was often an awkward play, but everything in this deck is crazy, crazy powerful. If they're not doing lane control, and lane control's in the meta, and they're not playing Sandman, and Sandman's going to be back once people get sick of dealing with this crap, Sandman will be back. We're going to see this deck. While you're at it, though, when you want, we're going to see Sandman. But until then, this deck's everywhere, and check out JHut99 for this sweet, sweet build. Stature stays in Series 4, but when she became Series 4, all of a sudden, she became meta. She went from a card that was just kind of there to a card that sort of defined one of the top decks in the game. I think that's Master Mold now. Master Mold was not a card people bought for 6,000 tokens, or many people bought for 6,000 tokens. For 3,000, though, you know who bought them? Me. Today, I saw Master Mold in my shop, and I was like, you know what? 3,000 tokens. I still have enough for High Evolutionary and all 3 cards next month. If I decide I want Living Tribunal, who's our icon, so I kind of do, I will find some tokens through various means. I'll throw a little cash in, and I'm getting the Tribunal, but I have enough for everything else, so I'm not really worried about like my token output right now. So I grabbed Master Mold. I think this deck may be meta. I really, 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 really want Maximus in it. I know why Maximus isn't here, but with Cosmo and Ronin, he's so good. I just don't. But he's so bad with Iron Lad. I get it. I get it. I get it. But this deck is insanely powerful. This is Dara's build. I would not be shocked to see this deck meta. Expect a video about this deck in the next couple of days. I'm going to play it a lot. Fundamentally, it plays a standard Darkhawk game and then has Ronin and Doom as a power finisher. It can also, last turn, with Sarah out, play both Ronin and Mold and just rock the opponent's face. Also worth remembering that opponents cannot get rid of those Sentinels. This deck is super powerful. It won a major creator tournament in Dara's hands. Although Dara is OP, this deck is sweet, and I would not be surprised to see it become a meta deck. We have Nimrod down a series. We already talked about Nimrod. We're not going to beat the Nimrod horse to death. We also have Shanna, Stature, Zabu, and Modok staying in Series 4, but because they stayed there, we're not going to talk about it. The last card that is new to Series 4 is Negasonic, Teenage Warhead. Combat is an excellent Marvel Snap creator. He's again going to be linked in the description. Every season he hits Infinite with Nebula. I think I might be the only person to hit Infinite with Ghost. Well, he's the one who did it with Nebula, who does it regularly with Nebula. One of our boys, King Koala, always hits it with Quake. We all have our pet cards. Somewhere, since Dara claimed Ronin, J-Hugs is really sad because J-Hugs loves some Ronin. But this deck is amazing. It's basically all about figuring out where your opponent's going to play, grabbing some priority, and then ruining their day with Negasonic, Professor X, Spider-Man, and Gamora. If it could do that, it wins the games. This deck is crazy powerful. It's not dissimilar to Dara's Guardians deck, except I think it plays enough differently with enough like control pieces that if you like control instead of like, I don't know, aggressive play, trying to predict people, this is really, really powerful. Also, Daredevil is like a cube machine. With the new like cube gambling thing, you're going to get so many cubes with Daredevil. Consider running the card. On to Series 3. We talked yesterday about the Jolly Rogers Hell Rider deck. This is it. It is super great. This is the deck I was talking about earlier that runs both Moon Knight, Black Hat, and then it on top of those runs Ghost Rider to get something back, and it's running the rest of the cards. I'm not sold on carrying on this list. I've played this list a lot. I win a lot with it. My win rate with this is great. I think it's really, really powerful. Just like consider the 18 mini combos. You can Carnage a Hood. You can Viper the Hood. You can do either one of those to the Sentry. You can chuck the wrong card with Moon Knight and grab it back with Ghost Rider as a surprise. You can not do that at all. You can just Black Bolt and Stature. You can Sarah into various different combinations of things. If you have Zebu and Sarah, your Sentry can be played after you've filled a lane on the right, which is relatively easy to do thanks to Ghost Rider. There's a lot of fantastically powerful things in this deck that opponents don't know what they're going to see. The Jolly Roger is Marvel Snap Show over on TikTok once again. Please, please, please check him out. He's got a huge announcement that we're going to get to after we talk about one more card that just went to Series 3. Since Starkhawk didn't drop, this is the most important card that went to Series 3. Surfer is Tier 1. I've got like a 60-something% win rate with Surfer. It's got one of the highest cube rates in the game. Surfer is great. What we have here is my current Surfer and the Jolly Rogers weird Surfer destroy thing. Told you I wasn't going to give you another Nimrod deck. I lied. It's right here. This deck is awesome. We talked about both of these yesterday, though, because we knew Surfer was going to be downgraded. So I'm just going to direct you to yesterday's vid, and I'm going to get to this big announcement. Cool? Both of these decks are sweet. One fairly important thing, though, for current Surfer, Scorpion is your swing card. Scorpion can be like 15 different cards, and if you don't have Jeff, don't fret. That can also be other cards. The 2s are where you want to play. I'm pretty sure I've perfected which 3s belong in this deck. All right. Jolly Roger has a new thing. That thing is SnapCon. It is the largest ever in-person event for Marvel Snap, purely a result of a small group of passionate creators is not affiliated with Second Dinner or Marvel. The event will be in Tampa, Florida on August 25th to 26th and feature a tournament, creator meet and greets, panels, awards, games, and other fun events. Registration is live, and people, in order to be notified when tickets go on sale, tickets are going to be limited, so register soon so they can gouge interest and you can stay up to date on further information, including a ticket. Y'all good? Unfortunately, I will be in London. I'm going to all in with my family. It's my August 26th is my birthday. You're still going to get videos, fret not friends. But I won't be at this. But if you know the Jolly Roger at all, you know he's going to do this up. You got to go. You got to go. And make it a success, and I'll see you there next year for my birthday. Do it. Cool. All right. We have Dazzler down. I couldn't figure out what the hell to do with Dazzler. So I stuck her in the Moyen Patriot shell, or I found someone who stuck her in the Moyen Patriot shell, because that's the thing that makes most sense to me, because Ultron will fill every spot just by definition. That makes Dazzler a 410. 410s are good. I know this is a lot of work for a 410. I think Shang is, Shang is in the deck, but I think, like, various other just good cards are probably still better here. I'd rather run Iron Lad. I'd rather run lots of things. It's fine. Deck is fine. Dazzler is the single card that went down that I'm least excited by. I'm really, really hopeful that someone proves me wrong about this. Shadow King is fine. I'm not going to build a whole Shadow King deck. Shadow King goes here for Scorpion, but Shadow King might become meta. And he might become meta in Surfer specifically and Sarah Control specifically. We've all seen Sarah Control builds. We've all seen Surfer builds. Why he might be meta is Nebula, Kitty Pryde, Angela, Venom, Bishop, etc., etc., etc. We have a bunch of non-ongoing cards that are gaining power for the first time since original Surfer, which is where Shadow King has a home. Since Shadow King has a home there, consider using him. Are you losing to these decks? Keep track. If you are, add Shadow King. If you're not, he's not needed. Don't think Surfer needs it, but I'm happy to be proven wrong. Some people worry about Nova and Surfer with Shadow King in the deck. You're in control of when you use it. When it's advantageous, you use it. And when it's not, you ignore it. This is Nerf Herder's deck. Nerf Herder is another amazing small creator that you need to be following. Nerf Herder is one of the most creative deck builders in the game. And at some point, I'm telling you right now, you want to be following because Nerf Herder is going to break the meta. Nerf Herder built this giant Sauron Venom deck, basically trying to leverage what Taskmaster can do. At this point, Venom basically eats half a board, and then you copy it with Taskmaster or split it with Zola. Nice and simple, right? We've all done this. But you don't always see Venom in decks despite America Chavez, right? So you've got Sauron so that you can play your giant cards and just win with big stuff. Win with big stuff is good. Sauron is now in a nice, affordable pool. Dropped real fast. Still the only pool 5 I've ever opened. Thanks, Second Dinner. But Sauron has dropped real fast, and this is a deck that you could play with him that I know for a fact, because I played it, wins some games. If you miss your Shuri, go check this one out. Next up, we have our pal Safety Blade. Safety Blade is straight up my single favorite deck builder in the game. He writes over at Marvel Snap Zone. He streams over on Twitch. As always, expect a link to Safety's work. Safety and I were talking. Safety and I talk every day. And I was like, build me a ghost deck. And Safety's a genius. So he built a ghost deck that he's winning 60% of his games with. I keep winning with this deck. Basically, the idea is you want to be able to gain priority by playing a bunch of really powerful cards. Throwing priority is obnoxious and means you have to be behind. Well, you don't want to be behind all the time. You want to win the game. How do you stay behind? Well, you use Ghost. Ghost helps you lose priority. It means that you can play all these impactful cards early, and then late, when you know exactly what the opponent has to do to stop you, you've got Shang and Enchantress. I want America in this deck so very badly for increased Zabu consistency because Zabu is unreal in this deck, but this is fundamentally an absolutely phenomenally powerful deck. It's almost like a Sarah Miracle deck, sort of smashed with the Galactus deck. It is so insanely strong. Please check this deck out. All it does is win. Next up, we have J-Hut's Valkbot. J-Hut's Valkbot is trying to do fundamentally the same thing as the last deck, right? Here's powerful cards. Here's some control. Here's ways to get cheap power out early. But instead of using Shang and Enchantress, this deck tries to use Rogue in place of Enchantress and Valkyrie in place of Shang. Works very similarly as a last turn play. It's using different ways to get that one cost last turn card. Miles, when you can move Jeff last turn, is excellent. Stature, when your turn 5 is Black Bolts and not Professor X, is also great. Lots of ways to win with this. I'm very, very hyped for this deck. I think that J-Hut is another absolutely phenomenal ahead of the curve deck builder. If you play this and you play it well, you're going to win cubes because your opponent is not going to know what you're going to do. Told you we got the off-meta goodness here on this channel. They fixed Crystal by making her a 4/4. Now both you and your opponent draw a card. Sir LOL, our buddy, built deck that has Crystal and Galactus. It's running Howard. It's basically saying, you know what I'd like to do in my Galactus decks more often? Draw Galactus. How do I do that? I draw more cards. Crystal's a nice, easy way to draw. You just drop her on 4, and then you draw. Nice and simple. Cool. Extremely strong. This one also wants to gain priority where possible. As it gains priority, you win the game. It's a very nice way to play the game, right? When are you playing Crystal? Ideally, you're playing Crystal on turn 3 by using Psylocke. Cool. Very, very simple, straightforward deck. When else do you want to play Crystal? Remember those Galactus decks like 7 slides ago? The slideshow's down in the description below, folks. Go check it out. You'll see what to do. This deck is super sweet. Lastly, they may have killed Death. They might have. I don't know. I think Death is going to be so much more inconsistent without Wave. Killing 8 things. She went from a 9 to an 8. But killing enough things to make her really worth it is going to be so much work. Just so genuine much work. To make her even a 5, right? Like, it's just frustrating. It's very easy to kill 3 things. 3 things in a lane and a Carnage, right? A Squirrel Girl and a Killmonger. But getting both of those off is really powerful. If you can kill 6 things, you have a 2-cost death. 2 cost is great. 2 for 12 is obviously amazing, but that's a lot of work. The other main place you can play Death is our boy Elite Hassa. Is phenomenal. Is rank God, probably like rank 200 now. Last season was rank 500. He's constantly hitting new highs. One of the decks he uses to do it all the time is Hela. He calls this one Controlled Casino. Basically, you control what you're going to do. You don't get the biggest Helas in the world, but because you have enough power through the other things in the deck, it's very, very straightforward and simple to gain an absolute ton of power. Overall, this patch is a win. People are going to tell you it's terrible. The reason they're telling you it's terrible is they're keeping Darkhawk and Stature in pool 4, and they're pushing weaker cards down into pool 3. It is at least a little bit pay to win to keep those powerful cards higher up. But in the long term, you will have more tokens. There will be more affordable cards. And the game will be in a healthier place for it. Second Ender doesn't want us just hoarding our tokens for months on end, hoarding our caches for months on end. They want us to have to commit to things. They don't want to be predictable. They want us to have to experience the game. Do I love the way they did it in this exact case? No, I really wanted Null. I ended up opening Null in a reserve. I was like, great, I'm supposed to have this free, and now this is my Series 4 for the next 40 caches. Obnoxious feeling. Way to make getting a new card not feel great, right? Nevertheless, the long-term outlook of the game is healthier based on this update. That's all we could ask. And you can help this channel become healthier by subscribing. Appreciate y'all for watching this long video. See you tomorrow for another Snap Take. Peace.